Hello and welcome back to the Indy Ball Report YouTube channel. I'm Nick, and for those that have been subscribed to this channel for a while or fans of the podcast are coming via one of the social media platforms, yes, we do in fact still have a YouTube channel. Yes, I do in fact post on this thing, although it's been some time since we have. But today what we're bringing for you is the Frontier League playoff primer. We're going to look over both wildcard matchups and all 6 teams that make up the 2024 Frontier League postseason field. So that being said, let's jump right into this. Let's look at the West Division playoff teams. In the West, the Washington Wild Things are the predominant favorite, having a franchise record best 65 plus wins on the season and being 25 games better on the road, having a winning record in that regard. Only a plus 12 at home as far as the winning records go. The top team in the West by far, they secured their bye some weeks ago. Looking at their overall team development, they are the top power team. They lead in home runs, they're second in slugging percentage. Overall, this team is able to both hit and pitch effectively. However, the pitching is really what we're going to want to highlight here, because while they are a power team and that does produce strong offense, pitching-wise, they lead in ERA by a considerable margin. Their whip's good. The lone team with a sub 3.25 ERA as a unit, coming in at around a 3.2. Overall, just a purely dominant group here, and they have 70 fewer walks than the next closest team. Simply put, they don't allow hits, they don't allow base runners, and as a result, they don't allow runs. McNeely coming in as both an all-star outfielder and the MVP of the Frontier League this year makes up part of what we call a trident of offense with Check and Caulfield as well. Really doing a lot of work, and we'd be remiss to not mention the DH of the Year and batting title champion in Reed, also doing a lot of work with 10 plus home runs and coming in with a batting average over 340. And for everyone that knows the show, they'll know that I'm a big fan of batting average, even if it is a bit of a flawed stat. Still put, you're getting on base over a third of the time, you're doing something right. Another interesting bit of note here, there is not a single starter on this team with an ERA above 4.5, which in what will likely be a maximum of 8 playoff games for them is extremely impressive if you reduce your rotation down to just simply 4 men and you leave that 5th starter as an emergency cleanup guy should you have a bad start from somebody. But if you want to go down to, say, 2 or 3 starters, Kirby and Foster are both coming in at a sub 3, and with a bullpen that has a slew of sub 3.5 guys, it just presents so many possibilities here and how you can create a just dynamic game plan for any opponent. Also, we're remiss if we didn't mention Kim, who has the reliever of the year and had 27 saves and 42 appearances, of which he only had 3 losses there, and we can kind of deduce from that he wouldn't have too many blown saves for whatever that may be worth. In short, Washington comes in as the favorite here because they can put up runs and stop runs from going on the board, and in the simplest form, that's what you got to do if you want to win baseball games. Hosting the wildcard game is the Gateway Grizzlies, second in the West. They have an even record at both home and the road. No real advantage to be had there. They still did put up a very strong year, over 50 wins for them. They are one of 4 teams with a sub 4 ERA, and they're top 5 in both ERA, whip, strikeouts, and hits allowed. Fewest hits allowed by a considerable margin, I should add, over 30 of them. The counter side of that is they do walk a considerable amount of guys, almost 400 walks at the time of me making my notes. That's the 5th most in the Frontier League, and something that can definitely kill you in a lot of different ways. If you're having a team that's hitting you and you got to try to do a little bit more with your pitching, get a little bit more creative, a little bit more crafty with it, it takes away a lot. If you know you're working with a lot of 2-1 counts, 3-2 counts, you don't have as much room for error, and batters know that. They can wait you out a bit. That being said, the starters still do a very good job. The top 4 are all sub 4, in fact sub 3.7, and most of them are sub 3.4. So that just creates a very, very nice dynamic. You know what the rotation is going into the postseason. You know the 3 guys that you're going to roll out there. Should you get to the second round, you know what the deal is going to be, and you have a lot of just certainty in that lineup. While the flip side is your opponent's going to know that, your lineup also does know it, and you know the quality of guy you're going to have, It's just one thing to take off a manager's plate. We should also point out that Millie is a K god. He is a power guy. He's averaging 14 strikeouts per 9. He has over 160 on the year and over 100 innings pitched. He is a dynamic force there. And Weinberg is also a dynamic swing guy. 22 appearances, 10 starts. Kind of an in-between. That's why I call him a swingman. He can start. He could be in the bullpen. He sounds like the ideal option for the postseason. A guy that you may not want to roll out there in game 2 or 3. I assume Billy would be the game 1 starter. However, he's the perfect guy that should you have a starter that has a bad start, should you have a guy that's getting in trouble, using up some pitches, maybe he lets up 3 runs through 4, you can bring this guy in. You can bring Weinberg in and let him throw for 3-4 innings and know, okay, at the very least, no matter what happened here, we got 4 good innings out of him. We saved the bullpen, and that's going to let us fight another day and try to rebound for this. I'd also point out that Whaley and Hickey are big arms in the bullpen. They are very solid. There are 4 main guys here in that bullpen, but overall as a unit, they're a very strong team there. Batting-wise, they are middle of the pack in offense. Zimmerman, a 2020 season guy and batting over 300. Stewart, another guy who has an impressive slash line, over 300, over 350, over 460. So solid there. Those are the main force of it. Krause also will get on base. He hits a lot of doubles. I like Abdul Diaz as a spark plug. Over 20 extra base hits for him on the year as well, 3 of which were triples, 16 of which were doubles. Solid on that front. They're a fast team. They like to run. Like I said, 4 players with 20 plus steals, almost 150 as a team. There's no real award winners or all-stars on this team from the most recent Frontier League awards, but overall as a team, as a unit, this is a good group. This is a group that could cause fits in the West. The final playoff team of the West is the Lake Erie Crushers. They clinched their first playoff berth in the last 5 years on the final day of the season by virtue of playing 1 fewer game. However, they would have held a tiebreaker over the Schaumburg Boomers, which are the first team out in the West. This means they will be playing the Gateway Grizzlies in round 1. This team overall is not a hitting team. They don't really hit well and they struggle to get on base. That being said, when they do make contact, when the ball is falling, it's either going over the wall or it's falling in the gaps. It's going to be a big extra base hit. That's where their offense comes from. They're in the upper part of the league for that. If you want to look at the paradigm example of this team's offense, look at Harris, look at Bird, look at Washington. These are guys that aren't hitting for average. They're not really strong on base percentage guys, but they hit some home runs. They're double-digit home run guys. They get 20 plus extra base hits. They're really doing a lot. They get on base. They try to do something with it. That's really my concern here, is that they are kind of famine or feast when it comes to offense. That being said, the only 3 real well-rounded batters are guys like Agresti, Gonzalez, Tecilio. These are the 3 guys across the season that were well-rounded. They also happen to all be catchers. That all being said, there's a reason why they're at this stage, and that reason is absolutely their pitching. They're top 5 in hits allowed. They're top 5 in balls on bases allowed, aka walks. They have the 2nd best ERA in the league. They don't overwhelm you with their stuff either. They're not really K guys. So the miles on those arms, they're not really as noticeable when you're not striking guys out. They're playing the game to contact. They're playing flyouts. They're playing small ball pitching almost, and it's working very well. Guys like Escobar and Eisenbarger are sub 3, and to have that as a 1-2 punch is a phenomenal thing to roll out in 2 game 1s if they wind up in that spot. Not to mention Reagan's is a top line number 3 with a sub 4 ERA there. The back half of that, the 4 and the 5, could be a little bit better, but honestly, you're probably just working with 3 starters anyway for the postseason if you're like this. And when you have a top tier bullpen with guys like Carver and Scafitti and Kunkel, those are really, really a solid bunch to roll out there. Really, the whole bullpen is a solid unit, and that's how they're going to get by. They're going to get by keeping these games low scoring and hoping the pitching holds out. You guys know my thoughts on that method, and you got to be a special team to make it work. There's no real award winners here. This is a team that was kind of slumping coming into it. We'll see if they can't turn it around against Gateway in round number 1. In the East, Quebec is once again the top seed. They are the best in the East and had their best year since 2017. They won the bye. Plus 18 at home, plus 15 on the road. That's what they do. They win games no matter where it is. Most importantly, point at them, Pete, they get on base. They hit a bunch of extra base hits. They have the best on-base percentage in the top 4 slugging in the league. They have a slew of extra base hits, lots of doubles, lots of home runs, and even some triples mixed in there too. This is a team that can get on base and is almost the better version of Lake Erie in that regard, where they're just a bit more well-rounded. They get on base via walks, they get on base via hits. That's what you need to do. However, the real highlight of this Quebec team is the pitching, a top 3 pitching team in the league. 4 elite stars that are all sub 4, 2 of which sub 3. 4 pure dominant relievers, guys like Bradwell, Saldana, and Sandberg, locking it down this year as far as the starting pitching goes. One with a perfect record in a sub 3 ERA, and not to mention a near 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Saldana just being a clutch playoff performer in historic ways last year, and then Sandberg being your pitcher of the year and walking only 20 guys to 107 strikeouts. Just nasty business there. Not to mention when you got guys like Montesquieu, Chu, Parra, and several others. They are dominant forces in that bullpen that can really knock you out. A guy like Justin Gideon is a well-rounded performer with 43 extra base hits, 20 of them coming via the long ball, and slugging over 500, nearly 550, is the big bat in the lineup, the guy you got to worry about. But the rest of the offense, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, is by committee. It's Lacroix, it's Lebeau, it is Corral, it is guys like that may not kill you individually, but they'll get on base. They'll get a double when they need to. And if you have 2 guys that have a double in an inning, that's a free run. So let's watch for that. Not to mention 2 40 steal guys in Seidel and McKenzie. They are solid pieces. Pitcher of the year on this team, manager of the year on this team, 2 all-stars on this team. This is a team that is favored to come out of the East, and if they don't, we'll be asking what went wrong for them. Hosting the wildcard game in the East will be the Tri-City Valley Cats, a team that got in on the last weekend of the season, as did their opponent in that wildcard matchup. But Tri-City will complete their 4th straight season of 50-plus wins every year in the Frontier League, and with it comes their first berth in that era of their team. They're more dominant at home than on the road, however, admittedly, it's roughly the same record, 9 more wins at home than losses, and a +3 on the road after defeating Sussex County last night. They get hits and they score runs. It's very simple as that. I mean, they're middling everywhere else, but they will find ways to get on base. Campos nearly 500 slugging with 11 home runs. Novak bats nearly 330 and slugs nearly 430. That's your main offense. Broderick and Hallmark are also well-rounded pieces, but we'll see how that translates in the postseason. Starters are generally weak. They're all above a 3.6, but 3 of them are below a 4.4. So they're very middling, very middle of the pack there. Nothing too much to note. Klein and Marzak need to do a lot of the work here. They are by far their best 2 starters, and I'd imagine we'll see one of them in the wildcard game and one of them in game 1 against Quebec. This is definitely a team that's going to need to lean on their bullpen. A guy like Dill is the frontline reliever. We'll see how this goes as a unit. Tri-City has definitely given me some concerns in the past. They have proven me wrong thus far. A lot of us had doubts about Taggart and his squad coming into the season. But hey, they've thrived as an underdog, or I guess undercat thus far. And we'll see if they can't manage to squeak out a few more wins and make some playoff magic happen. And the final playoff team in the East is the Ottawa Titans. Their second 50-win season and second playoff berth in 3 years. They'll be traveling to Tri-City to take them on. They're just a 500 team on the road, which is definitely concerning, but they're a +10 at home. So should they be able to extend this series, or extend their playoff hopes rather, I like their odds as things advance. However, the offense is rather mid. They are not really above and beyond in any sort of major category. The pitching is the way they're going to have to get things done. A top 5 ERA in the league with a 4.25 as a team unit. The bottom half in all major offensive categories is definitely going to hold them back. O'Donnell and A.J. Wright both have double-digit home runs and slug over 450, which seems to be the way they're going to have to go about this on offense. There's other guys on offense too. Taylor Wright, DeCaccia can fill in and can produce when need be. However, they're not as consistent and perhaps may be a problem later on. The starters are definitely what's the highlight here. Jordan, Larson, and Pena, all phenomenal years. None of them too strikeout heavy, but all of them sub 4 ERAs and definitely will be the top 3 going in. I imagine Grant Larson will get the hill for tomorrow's wild card game. That being said, Jordan would not be a bad choice either, neither would Pena, and I do think they're going to be the key to any sort of postseason success for Ottawa. The bullpen with a trio of Pinales, Harris, and Dallas all are the gold standard there. They get the job done, and they can definitely help Ottawa out. Really, the pathway here is going to be starter goes 6, 7, 8, and 9 belong to these 3, and you fill in where you need to when those 3 can't go. I get concerned if this team doesn't have a good start. I get concerned if we keep it into a high-scoring affair. They did just get 7 against Quebec, but that's not a Quebec team that had anything to play for. Remember, Ottawa's kind of stumbling in here. Tri-City the same. It's going to be an interesting wild card matchup for these 2 teams. Now that we have a base for all of these teams, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the wild card matchups. We'll start in the West. Gateway hosting Lake Erie. These 2 teams are comparable in the sense of they're both extremely strong pitching teams. However, Gateway definitely gets the edge batting-wise. I would say this really does hurt Lake Erie in the sense of if the pitching fails, this can get ugly quickly. What is a saving grace for Lake Erie, however, is those aforementioned walks on the part of Gateway. If you can't really hit in your big, pretty much feast or famine team, a team that's going to get a lot of doubles and hit some home runs, then if you can get some free passes, get some walks, maybe that's going to turn the tides a bit. You get a walk, then even a sac fly to advance that runner to second, then a double. Hey, next thing you know, you got a little bit extra something going there. That being said, though, that really only works as a source of offense if the pitching holds up. You would assume Millie is going to be going up against one of Escobar or Eisenberger. That will be a dynamic pitching matchup and one that I do look forward to. However, at the end of the day, this is going to come down to, can Lake Erie keep Gateway's bats quiet? Because you cannot count on the Crushers' offense to show up and really perform at a high level, or at least a high enough level to get you through this game. That being said, if they can buck the trend, if Lake Erie can get on the board early, if they can score maybe 3 or 4 runs, something that could be tough for them, but isn't an unreasonable ask, I have a lot of confidence in that Lake Erie team to shut the door pitching-wise. If you can get a start that gives you, say, 5 or 6 strong innings and then hand it over to a just talented bullpen, then all of a sudden, it's a lot more difficult if you are the Grizzlies. Now, all that to say, that's really the way it has to work if you are Lake Erie. If you're Gateway, your ideal blueprint is you go out, you shut down an offense that's already fairly anemic, you just kind of blow it by them because you do have several guys that can throw really hard and really get strikeouts. You don't really allow many hits to begin with. You're only allowing walks. So who cares? You go out, you walk, let's even say 8. You walk 1 an inning. Who really cares? If they're only going to get 3, 4 hits, okay, fine. Let's do the math. Let's say 3 hits across. Let's give them 2 hits in 1 inning. And let's give them 2 walks in 1 inning. That's 1 run. Who cares? Hell, even like the hit grand slam, it's still 4 runs. I should feel confident if I'm Gateway to be able to put up 5. And I know that's weird to say against a strong, very strong pitching team in Lake Erie, in fact. But you have a guy like Zimmerman that has over 20 home runs. You got a guy like Stewart that slugs over 460. You got a guy like Krause that gets in there and does a lot of work. You have plenty of other guys just like that will get on base, that will make that base hit turn into a double, and then will hit one into a gap to get it right back. You have plenty of guys like that. It's only in the worst case scenario does Gateway not come out of this, at least in my viewpoint. I think if you're Gateway, the way this game's probably going to go, and you walk in expecting it to, is your starter goes in, gives you 5 strong, 6 strong. You allow 2 hits, and you walk probably about 4. Maybe there's a run in there, maybe there's not. You probably put up 2 or 3, probably leaning a little bit close to 2 from that starter. and then you hand it over to your bullpen where you give those guys, the big arms, the Whaleys and the Hicks of the world, the rock, and you say, go get them. And they do an admirable job. Maybe they give up one more, and it's 3 runs that you got to get by them. 4 runs you got to get by them. And I think that's capable here. So let's just summarize what we just said. Lake Erie, to get through it, is going to need to have a strong pitching performance and timely offense. Cliches, I know. On the Gateway side of things, keep hitting like you've been hitting. And just perform like you know you're capable of, pitching-wise. I look at this, and I give the edge really to Gateway on this. I think they bat better, and I think they're more timely. The pitching, I think, is a stalemate. Edge to Gateway in this wildcard matchup. Now, the East is a little bit different when we look at that. The East wildcard is rather fascinating here because neither team is overly strong. Neither team came in at their best. Tri-City certainly better than Ottawa, as Ottawa kind of fell backwards into it, losing 4 straight, including being swept in a Rockland series they really would have liked to get one and just close the door on. However, in the end, it didn't really hurt. The point is, neither team's at their best. However, Tri-City's been playing slightly better, so maybe we give them the edge on that front here. Pitching-wise, Ottawa definitely seems to be the better team. They have better starters, their bullpen's a little bit more developed, and overall, they should get the edge there. However, batting-wise, it's not particularly close. Tri-City is the better team. They have more guys that you can point to and go, big-time player. They have more guys that you can point to and go, I can feel comfortable with him up. And in the recent past, they've been able to do more of their offense. Keep in mind, coming in, Ottawa had a 26-inning stretch of getting no runs, producing no offense. And outside of really a generally meaningless game on the part of Quebec, they haven't really had a huge offensive explosion in the better part of a week and a half. That's extremely concerning to me when in big-time must-win games, you're not producing offense and you're getting shut out a couple times over. So that offense is extremely, extremely concerning to me. That being said, I do love the pitching matchups. I have a hard time picking this one, right? Because it comes down to, do you believe in pitching or do you believe in batting? I'm a little bit more of a believer in batting than I am pitching. The home record for Tri-City being 9 games better at home versus a 500 team in Ottawa on the road. Ottawa also has to travel from the nation's capital down to Tri-City. That's a factor as well. Perhaps I'm looking for reasons to pick one side or the other. Generally speaking, they seem to be fairly evenly matched at this point. I lean a little bit Tri-City solely based off of I like the top 2 starters, and for one game, you look at the starting matchups. I do think Grant Larson is a better starter than either of the Tri-City ones. However, I don't think it's dominant in one way or the other. So I do like the Tri-City starting. I do think the bullpens, while the edge goes to Ottawa, I think Tri-City can get by. And I think when all else is roughly equal, look for what's the big difference, and it is the bats. And I don't think that Ottawa really does have a bat that can match guys like Oscar Campos, that can match guys like Hallmark, that can match guys like Williams on the base path, like Broderick, like Novak. I think there's just too many pieces on offense for the Titans to really contend with. Now, if the Titans pull this out, am I shocked? No, not at all. However, I give the edge to Tri-City. I think they're able to get it done. I think it's a fairly close game, and I think they're going to be going to play Quebec in the next round. So the Valley Cats are probably the team to watch coming out of this East wildcard matchup. All right, guys, and that is the Indy Ball Report Frontier League playoff primer for the 2024 postseason. I hope you guys enjoyed that and found it to be somewhat informative at least. And if you guys enjoyed the video and want to see more videos like this for the other 3 playoff leagues, we should have an American Association one coming out tomorrow, but we have yet to do the Pioneer League and the Atlantic League because those seasons are still ongoing. So if you want to see those, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below to let us know. And be sure to let us know your thoughts. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? But until next time, don't forget to play ball.